Okay, do me a favor. Stick your hand out in front of you.
Right.
And just look at your middle finger. Now, without, poking yourself in the eye, try to visualize that finger placed right against your nose.
Okay.
According to the ancient Egyptians, those two things, your middle finger and your nose, they should be the exact same length.
Which, if you actually try it right now, feels like a surprisingly specific and, kind of arbitrary standard to hold people to.
It feels completely arbitrary, but apparently for a very, very long time, that was the rule.
Wow.
If your nose was a finger length, you were aesthetically golden. If not, well, you were mathematically off.
And that is just the tip of the iceberg, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pun fully intended.
Exactly. Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are moving way past the celebrity gossip columns.
Right.
We aren't talking about nose jobs in that kind of tabloid sense. We are unpacking the incredibly complex mathematical and historical geometry of the human face.
It's this amazing subject that blends anthropology, art history, and, some really hardcore surgical science.
And for this, we're working off a fascinating special article from the Brazilian Journal of Plastic Surgery by Dr. Isaac Rocha Furtado. It's called Nasal Morphology, Harmony, and Proportion Applied to Rhinoplasty.
And it's one of those reads that it changes how you see things.
It really does. After reading this, I can't look at faces the same way. I'm walking down the street seeing angles and triangles everywhere. It's like the Matrix, but for cartilage.
That's the goal. The mission today is to decode the formulas that define what we call beauty.
We tend to think beauty is subjective, in the eye of the beholder.
But this research suggests it's actually in the protractor of the surgeon.
So let's go back to the Egyptians. We started with the finger rule, but the source mentions they had this very strict grid for the entire human body. It wasn't just the nose.
They did, yeah. The total body length was calculated as 19 fingers.
19 fingers.
And the nose represented exactly one of those 19 units. And this actually explains a very distinct feature of Egyptian art.
Profiles, right.
The profiles. If you picture those hieroglyphs, the figures have these enlarged noses with perfectly straight bridges. That wasn't an accident. It was mathematical adherence to that one finger rule.
It's just wild to think art was dictated by a formula like that. But then the Greeks came along and they flipped the script.
Completely. They didn't use fingers. They used the nose itself as the yardstick.
For the whole body.
For the whole body. The ideal body was 30 noses tall.
30 noses. I'm trying to do the mental math on my own height here, and that seems like a lot of noses stacked on top of each other.
It does. But it implies that the nose was the central unit of the human form.
And it didn't stop there, did it? There's this recurring theme linking the hand and the face.
Yes, the source highlights a proportional relationship between the length of the thumb and the nose, and even the hand size relative to the face. It suggests that, biologically, we are built with these repeating, almost fractal-like ratios.
Which brings us to the heavy hitter of facial geometry, Leonardo da Vinci. You just can't talk about proportions without him.
Oh, absolutely. The Renaissance is where this moves from, rule of thumb to actual engineering. Da Vinci basically turned the face into a grid.
Right, from the front view.
From the front, he divided it into 4 horizontal segments.
And the nose?
The nose had to take up exactly 1/4 of the total face height. But here is where he really changed the game. He visualized the profile, the side view, essentially as a square.
A square, not curves.
He saw the craniofacial complex not as curves, but as a box, defined by the vertical plane of the face and the ear.
It's amazing to think artists were so rigorous with this stuff hundreds of years before modern plastic surgery even existed.
They were treating the face like architecture. They had to. They were trying to replicate perfection.
But the shift from, let's say, artistic ideal to surgical map really happened in the modern era.
Specifically with a surgeon named Jacques Joseph in 1931. The paper calls him the father of modern rhinoplasty.
And he introduced the Joseph zones.
Correct. He stopped looking at the nose as one big lump of tissue and divided it into 3 distinct zones based on what's underneath.
Okay, so what are they?
You have the upper third, which is all bone, the middle third, which is cartilage, triangular cartilages, and then the lower third, which is the lobe or the tip.
And why does that distinction matter so much? Is it just for labeling?
No, it's completely functional. You can't treat bone the same way you treat cartilage.
Right, because bone is rigid.
It's rigid, you break it or file it. Cartilage is flexible, it bends, it springs back, it has a kind of memory. If you treat the middle third like the upper third, you end up with a collapsed nose or, breathing problems.
So Jacques Joseph gives us the zones, but to navigate them, you need a map. And the research lays out these specific landmarks. It's almost like GPS coordinates for the face.
That's a great way to think about it.
I want to walk through these because they sound like sci-fi terms, but they're actually things we can touch on our own faces right now.
Let's do it. The first big one is the glabella.
Glabella. Okay, that's the smooth area right between your eyebrows. I'm touching it now.
Exactly. Then you move down to the nation. Point N. This is crucial. It's the deepest point of the nasal root.
So it's that dip right before the nose starts projecting out.
It's the dip. The source says it should be level with the crease of your upper eyelid.
And if it's not?
Well, if the nation's too high, it looks like the nose starts in the middle of your forehead. That's the Greek profile with no dip. If it's too low, the nose looks short, kind of snubbed. It dramatically changes the face's character.
Okay, then we have the pronasal, which is just a fancy term for the very tip of the nose.
Yep. And the subnasal, which is where the nose meets your upper lip.
And then the chin, the pagonian.
Right. But here's the thing. Knowing the point isn't enough. You need a reference line. If you're building a house, you need a level floor, right?
Of course. If the floor is tilted, all your measurements are off.
So what's the level floor for the face?
It's called the Frankfurt plane,
It is.
which sounds like a conspiracy thriller, but I'm guessing it's a standard.
It is the global standard in anthropometry. So imagine a straight horizontal line drawn from the Trajan.
The little nub of cartilage in the middle of your ear.
Right there. Straight across to the inferior orbital rim, which is just the bone at the bottom of your eye socket.
Ear nub to under eye bone. Got it.
That line, that's what determines the true vertical axis of the face. Without the Frankfurt plane, you can't tell if a nose is actually projecting too far, or if the person just has their head tilted back.
It's the constant.
It's the constant that makes all the other measurements possible.
And once you have that constant out, come the protractors. This was the part of the article that really, really surprised me. The specific degrees that statistically define beauty.
It feels almost cold, doesn't it? To reduce a face to angles.
But the numbers are incredibly specific.
It is pure geometry, but our brains process it as attractiveness. So let's look at the nasofacial angle.
Okay, this measures projection. How far the nose sticks out.
Right. You draw a line down the vertical axis of the face and another line following the bridge of the nose, the angle between them. That's the number.
And for men, it's ideally what?
Roughly 36 degrees.
And for women?
Roughly 34 degrees.
Wait, that is a tiny difference. We're talking about 2 degrees separating a masculine nose from a feminine one.
It's a game of millimeters. A surgeon misses by 3 or 4 degrees, and the nose can look overly dominant or just weirdly flat.
Wow.
But the angle that people notice the most, even if they don't know they're noticing it, is the nasolabial angle.
That's the tilt, right? The angle between the lip and the nose.
Correct. The source gives a range of about 90 to 110 degrees, sometimes up to 115. If that angle is acute less than 90, the nose hooks downward. It looks droopy.
And if it's too obtuse, like way over 110.
Then you get that upturned piggy look where you can see right up the nostrils. It's a very fine line between perky and surgical disaster.
I was looking at the diagrams in the source, the ones with the red and blue lines. There's also the nasofrontal angle.
Yes, the bridge, where the forehead meets the nose. That should be between 115 and 135 degrees. This angle defines the break.
And if it's too shallow,
You lose definition, the face looks flat, too deep, and the nose looks like it's detached from the forehead.
it's incredible. We walk around thinking, oh, that person is good looking, but our brains are actually like rapidly calculating these angles.
We are subconsciously processing math all the time. And speaking of math, we have to talk about the nasal index.
I tried to do this in the mirror. It's width divided by length times 100.
Right, it's a percentage. And based on that, you fall into one of 3 buckets. If your index is less than 60%, you have a leptorine nose. Tall and narrow.
Which is typical of what we call a Caucasian or Northern European nose.
Generally, yes. If it's between 60 and 80%, you are mesorine, so medium width. And greater than 80%, it's platyrrhine, a wide, flatter nose.
And this matters for surgery because you can't just turn a platyrrhine nose into a leptorine nose, can you?
You'd be breaking the harmony of the face, which is worse. You can't build a skyscraper on a foundation meant for a bungalow. The bone structure dictates what's possible.
Okay, before we get into ethnicity and structure, we have to talk about the part of the nose nobody really wants to look at closely, the nostrils.
The worm's eye view, the basal view.
Yes, and the source material dives deep into this. Nostrils aren't just holes.
They have geometry, they have axes.
I saw this in the text. Newborn babies basically have round nostrils.
They do. In newborns, the axis is 0 degrees. They're little circles. As we grow, the shape elongates and rotates. By adulthood, that axis can shift up to 90 degrees, becoming vertical.
And this is where the Farkas classification comes in.
Leslie Farkas, a giant in this field. He categorized nostrils, types I through 7. Type I is vertical, narrow, typical of Anglo-Saxon populations.
And as you go up the scale,
To type V, 6, and 7, the axis becomes horizontal or even negative.
meaning they sit wider and flatter against the face.
Exactly. Typically seen in African descent noses. And there's this little detail about Sheen's triangles that I find fascinating.
That's about light, right?
It's all about light. A beautiful nasal tip from below should reflect light in 2 specific points, forming these perfect isosceles triangles. If the light doesn't catch those points, the tip looks undefined.
So surgery is just as much about how light hits the skin.
Always.
Yeah.
It's essentially manipulating a surface to create shadows and highlights.
Okay, so this brings us right to the most complex part of this whole deep dive: ethnicity, genetics, and the myth of the cookie cutter nose.
This is critical. The source just hammers this point home. Harmony is relative to ethnicity. You cannot and should not put a thin Anglo-Saxon nose on a face with a wide bimaxillary protrusion.
Okay, let's define that. Bimaxillary protrusion. That implies the jaw and mouth area, they project further forward.
Yes, the upper and lower jaw sit further forward relative to the forehead. It's common in many African and Asian populations. If you put a tiny retracted nose on that face,
It would look completely unbalanced. It would just disappear.
it disappears. The nose needs enough projection to balance the jaw.
And the article breaks down other biological differences too, like skin thickness.
Hugely important. A Caucasian nose typically has thin skin. That's a blessing and a curse. It allows for a very defined, sharp tip.
But it also shows every single tiny imperfection underneath.
Every single one.
Oh.
Whereas a black or negroid nose, using the term from the paper, has thicker skin, a lower nation, and a wider base.
And that thick skin acts like a heavy blanket.
It does. You can do the most precise work on the cartilage underneath, but the skin might just mask it, making the tip look undefined. It really limits how sharp you can make things.
The source also had a really surprising point about the bulbous nose.
Oh, right. That people think it's just fat.
Yeah, just excess tissue.
But it explains it's often about the angle of the alar cartilages. Sometimes the angle of those cartilages is obtuse, greater than 90 degrees. The framework itself is splayed wider, like a tripod with its legs too far apart.
There was one other anatomical thing that sounded intense, like a booby trap in the face. The dermocartilaginous ligament.
Ah, yes. The Patangui ligament, a fascinating bit of anatomy.
What does it do?
It runs down the center of the nose to the bit of skin between your nostrils. When you smile, your mimic muscles pull on this ligament.
And it drags the tip of the nose down?
Exactly, the plunging tip. When some people smile, their nose hooks down toward their lip.
I know exactly what you mean.
That's the ligament at work. One of the fixes mentioned is literally cutting that ligament to release the tip so the nose stays static when the face moves.
That brings us to a really specific context in the article. Brazil. Why focus on Brazilian surgery?
Because Brazil is the ultimate melting pot. You have European, Native Indian, African, Japanese ancestries all mixing. The source calls it immense miscegenation.
Which means the surgeon in Brazil can't just memorize one set of angles like the 36 degrees we talked about and apply it to everyone.
It would be a total disaster. A single nose type is impossible to do. You can't. Which is why the psychological component is so huge. The article distinguishes between correcting disharmony versus correcting disproportion.
What's the difference? They sound like the same thing.
Disproportion is measurable. Your nose is deviated 15 degrees. That's a fact. You can put a ruler on it.
And disharmony.
That's aesthetic and subjective. It's I feel like my nose doesn't fit my face, or I feel ugly. A patient might have a nose that is mathematically proportionate, but they perceive it as huge.
There's a quote in the source that really struck me. Rhinoplasty may be the only cosmetic surgery offering an actual benefit of beauty to the patient.
It's a bold claim, but it clarifies that this is only true if the psychological profile is respected. If a patient wants a nose that physically doesn't fit their facial structure.
Like asking for a nose they saw on Instagram that belongs to someone with a completely different skull shape.
Exactly. The surgeon has to be the one to say that won't look like you. And more importantly, that won't look good on you.
So it seems like the ultimate goal isn't really to make a beautiful nose in isolation, it's to make the nose invisible.
Yes, that is the paradox. A great nose is one you don't notice. It guides your eyes to the person's eyes or their smile. If you're staring at the nose, even a perfect one, it has failed.
It shouldn't be the protagonist of the face.
It should be the supporting actor.
So what does this all mean for us? We've gone from Egyptian finger measuring to Da Vinci squares to the Frankfurt plane.
It means that the face is a study in millimeters. It's a high-stakes game of geometry where a single degree can change how the world sees you.
And it completely debunks the idea that beauty is random. We think we just know it when we see it, but really we're seeing ratios.
It's not random at all, it's deeply structured. But the takeaway from Dr. Furtado's work isn't that everyone should try to hit that perfect 36-degree angle.
Right, because if you put a 36-degree nose on a face that requires a 40-degree nose, it's gonna look weird.
Exactly. True beauty, according to this deep dive, is balance. It's about the relationships between the parts, not the perfection of any single part.
It's about harmony.
Harmony between the nose, the chin, the forehead, and crucially, the ethnic background of the individual.
It makes you wonder though, and this is something the source doesn't answer, but it definitely makes me think.
What's that?
If our perception of beauty is so heavily tied to these mathematical ratios, these 36 degrees, these golden proportions, how much of what we find attractive is actually biological hardwiring?
And how much is us just unconsciously measuring Da Vinci squares on each other's faces because we've been trained to by centuries of art and media?
Exactly. Are we born loving these angles, or did we learn to love them?
That is the million-dollar question, and perhaps one that can't be measured with a protractor.
Something to think about the next time you look in the mirror. Thanks for listening to this deep dive on nasal morphology.
We'll see you next time.